coming back. Hopefully everyone had a break. We are going to jump to Lucy and Jenny on the establishment of the Weed Management Political Advisory Group.
Kia ora everyone, my name's Jenny Gargiulo. I am the project manager responsible for implementing Auckland Council's weed management policy. These are the 8 objectives of which we make decisions on weed management and support best practice. So 2 years on, still working to continuously improve our weed management. I just wanted to sort of acknowledge as well a change since the writing of this. Well, it's something that needs to be acknowledged since writing this. Within the policy about the establishment of the political advisory group, it directly references mana whenua. We do consult with mana whenua over our weed management decisions, but we just want to ensure that specifically there'll be consultation about how they would like to be represented on the political advisory group as well. So I wanted to acknowledge that change since the writing of the report.
Perfect, thank you. Was there anything else, or we can just go to discussion?
Please go to discussion.
Is there any questions? I'll move if someone wants to second. But I just want to check, so Councillor Walker has also asked is there a limit on councillors on?
There was 6 councillors from the governing body and 6 councillors from the local boards.
Right. Councillor Walker?
I just want to raise an issue around that. I don't know of any reason why you wouldn't encourage as many councillors as possible, and for that matter, those local board members that are interested to be members. My experience of the committee is the attendance often was abysmal, and even though I led out the strategy in the first term of council, I wasn't appointed, but I used to go along, and often I was one of the few people there. So, frankly, I just asked the question, why exclude people? Because essentially it really doesn't make any decisions. It's pretty low level. It's about informing yourself, if that.
Okay. So, Councillor Mahon.
Well,
it's not low level. Point of order.
my opinion.
Cool. Yeah. So that's fine. So I'm just, I'm happy for if someone can't come, that you could be an alternate councillor.
Through the chair, since 2018, the meetings have been open, so anyone can attend. And as you've identified, the more people that are interested, and we get that advice from, including members of the community as well as other elected members. Always welcome.
Sorry, it's not Councillor Watson, it was Councillor Young on there. Look, the last committee, Councillor Walker, you asked to be on the waste advisory, the waste levy discussion. I just wanted to see if we could give some other councillors a go on an advisory group, but I'm happy if you become an alternate for those. Okay, we can debate this. This is the
Created it?
These are the people who've shown an interest to me before the committee, and we can discuss that in the debate. So questions of the officers. Councillor Cooper.
Okay, so in terms of the appointment of Councillor Mulholland, which I support, is that useful because of the fact that part of her ward verges and is on the actual foothills of the Waitaki Ranges protection area, and that's a significant area, weed infested area, that we need to keep an eye on? Is that a useful addition of having her there so she knows the area? In terms of weed management.
So we want to have a representative from the different regions as well. Just a point of clarification with the weed management policy that works with our regional pest management plan, which identifies the species and the locations. The weed management policy is about how we manage those weeds.
Right. I guess that's the thing is for me is it's good to have people, and particularly newer councillors, to get involved in these as well, and people with specific understanding of certain weed issues in certain areas.
I've got a pretty clear understanding.
Thank you. Were there any other questions of the officers on the content of the report? Member Wilcox.
Yeah, I'm just asking, we've got mana whenua representation, what does that look like and what are we talking? Oh,
Through the chair, that is what we need to be doing to understand what they'd like it to look
okay.
like.
No, happy with that response. One other thing is this group hasn't met. It only met a couple of times a year, didn't it? If I recall. So my question relates to: are we just talking about weeds, or are we just talking about how to control weeds? Because it says weed management, but it just seemed to be about whether to use certain types of weed killers and whether that was appropriate for Auckland Council.
Through the chair, that definitely, in my 2 years here, has been, that is a topic that is often discussed, but there is a lot of community interest in our use of glyphosate, and even in the time that I was involved in the group, there was international decisions and events that would mean that they needed to be discussed and re-reviewed. So whilst there is an ongoing need by council to review our use of a specific product, glyphosate, within the term we had presentations from Biosecurity about biocontrol. We had 2 presentations from Brett Butlin in regards to that, engaging the community for a wider, for pest plant control and what we're doing with that. We had Paul Duffy from the local parks. So whilst that is always going to be, a key topic that needs to be discussed, there's 8 objectives and there's a, 42-point action plan. There's a lot more, that we need to continue to get, staff to come and talk directly to our elected members about around weed management.
Thank you. Councillor Mulholland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, staff. Because I am a very generous and kind-hearted councillor, and I certainly understand the needs in my community, I'm going to relinquish and then suggest Wayne Walker take my position, seeing as you are so passionate. I think that is the fair and right thing to do. Being mindful of the fact that I am I'm not going to be able to say it now, glyphosate. I'm not anti-weed. People can choose to do what they want to do in the context, but not my choice personally. So, Mr. Chair, I think that's the right thing to do. If someone is incredibly passionate and will attend the meetings and will also lobby, I'm happy to sit on another panel if that is appropriate and right with you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Watson, you want to? I just want to speak to the item. Thank you. Any other questions? Right. Thank you very much. Now we'll just have some comment from Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I noticed that in points 23 to 27 in the report, there's a degree of introspective analysis of whether to re-establish the group, basically ask the question whether the group should continue. That doesn't quite amount to a searing self-examination of what's actually been achieved through the group, but it does at least raise that question. I think that's important. It's important the question should be asked because this document, the Auckland Council Weed Management Policy, has been around since 2013. That's 7 long years ago, 2013. And if you read that policy document that was no doubt produced at some expense like our other policies, it says all the right things. So we have an integrated approach to weed management, best practice, minimise agrochemical use, minimise non-target effects, public health and safety, enhance the environment, empower the community, and the final one, which has been used as a bit of an excuse for relative inertia, value for money. So 7 years on, and the world has moved on, Mr. Chair. Because if you look around the world, what's happening with the use of glyphosate, where it's banned, there's a whole raft of countries all around the world, every continent. Argentina, 2015, more than 30,000 healthcare professionals advocated for a glyphosate ban. France, French authorities banned the sale, distribution and use of glyphosate in early 2019. Germany will seek an end for glyphosate use in the near future. Retail stores in Germany have also banned glyphosate. Greece, one of the first 9 European countries to vote against relicensing glyphosate. Scotland, our old friends are Scott again. In November 2017, Edinburgh City Council voted to phase out glyphosate, and 5 of Scotland's 6 EU parliamentarians voted in favour of a motion that would phase it, etc., etc. Just country after country after country that has banned or greatly restricted the use of glyphosate, but not old Auckland City, it would seem. And this committee, or this working group, really goes to that examination of why we're continuing, or should be going to that examination of why we're continuing to use glyphosate. And I guess, and I don't mean any offence to Jenny, who's tried very hard and is always very responsive. There's been a relative inaction across the board for that full 7 years. In fact, the only action on the ground is when I'm responding to people like groups of young mothers at a playground who are there, and some idiot spraying comes by and sprays their young kids, or the pregnant mums, or the lady a couple of weeks ago, probably the most chemically sensitive woman in Auckland, who's in a no spray zone, and she gets sprayed right outside her house where she's got a big sign, no spray. That's the only action I've seen in the ground. And in some ways, that type of incident is secondary to the communities themselves and the local boards who want to go chemical free and who are consistently ignored right across Auckland. Well, not so much ignored. They can get their parks chemical free if they come up with obscene amounts of money to do so. And to a credit, some of them, like Kaipatiki, have done that. The rest of them, it's not within their financial means to do that. So the individual cases are bad enough. The way that our communities and local boards, not least of which is the one I'm in, and there are other parts of Auckland too, who've always been highly concerned, highly educated about this issue, who have had no improvement. In some cases, it's got worse. 7 years on, some parts of Auckland, and I'd say it's the poorer parts, they're sprayed like the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Unfortunately for those people, they don't have any representation. Some of the boards are picking it up. So there's a kind of discriminatory element at work too in this. We talk about the United Auckland Council. We're still going on legacy practices. So when it suits them to sell off our assets, everyone's the same there. When it comes to chemical-free spray, we've got to stay with what the legacy councils do. We can't move on. We'll have a trial. We'll have 7 years and you're still getting glyphosate sprayed all over you. So I would say that that examination of the need for this working group was very well founded. Personally, I've had enough of the yes minister type inertia. So when the chairman asked if I wanted to go on it, I thank him for that offer, but no. I had 3 years of that in the last term. Nothing happened. I've had enough of the good old boys who think there's nothing wrong with glyphosate. I'm happy for them to spray it in their neck of the woods. They can drink it for all I care. But I object to them imposing that in highly urbanised environments where people have said they don't want it. And they particularly don't want it because you know why? Because there's chemical-free alternatives. There are contractors in Auckland who win contracts, who are chemical-free specialists, who win contracts on price, who have done big chunks of Auckland using hot water and are now progressed to hot foam. So we have parts of Auckland where it's already in operation, Mr. Chair, is cost effective, ticks all those 8 boxes. So my question, and all the people as they're looking at their phones and with bored, resigned expressions on their faces, why isn't it getting rolled out across Auckland in this environmental renaissance that Auckland Council is meant to be experiencing? That's the question that people on that reference group or whatever it's called should be asking. That's what our community asks. So it's another case, and a more glaring case you couldn't find, of not walking the talk. 7 years on, and we haven't progressed one single inch, because the only inch that matters is when you stop spraying our streets and our parks with glyphosate. That's all that matters.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. And just, although passionate and important conversations, just language around Ho Chi Minh and things like that, just,
Well,
yeah.
it's a good metaphor, I think.
I don't think,
Point of order,
Well,
Mr.
it's an
Chair.
accurate
Point of
metaphor.
Point of order,
It's
Mr.
spraying
Chair.
it over people.
We just speak
yes,
to
what
they did in
relevance.
Vietnam.
Point of order.
what
Point
is
of
the
order.
point of order?
Speaking to relevance.
Yes.
In terms of, are we debating the actual policy, or are we, what's up here is that we should be debating who's on the committee? So just point of order there, that,
Yes.
can you keep us to that?
Yeah, Councillor Cooper, I was allowing Councillor Watson to talk about what happens within what the advisory group does, so it is connected. But yes, I'll try and keep, if councillors could keep focused to the fact that this is about establishing the group for this term. And yeah, I did just say around that language around, significant death and significant stuff is, yeah, we just shouldn't hyperbole, Cool. Member Karen Wilson.
Crikey, feel a bit apprehensive now, but in talking to the resolution that's been put up there in support thereof, and specifically around IMSB and mana whenua representation, and taking into account what's been said, relying on points 23 to 27, policy is not everything. It's not something we're all a fan of, but, Jeannie is a slave to the fact that policy needs to exist to guide, and that's all I really wanted to say. We wish there to be participation because it's central to the participation of mana whenua and iwi around where to next, almost like a roadmap in the sense, and I take on board paragraph 23 and 25. It gives also direction, does it not? It doesn't always achieve these things, but I still have my partially excited face on in the sense that as a new back to the table, there has to be some lead as to where to go next for mana whenua, Māori, and policy is intended to do that and framing up what needs to be said. So I take on board what's been said, but we support the resolutions there in the sense that will involve all of those who wish to participate in the conversation, and as we spoke in the earlier resolution, drive it forward so it does work in the term that we're responsible for it.
Thank you, Member Wilson. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, picking up on where Councillor Watson left off, the actual document that Council's referring to took a couple of years to put together, and I worked on that. I led the committee that rolled it out, and that was a collaborative process with people in the community, and I'll repeat that, a collaborative process with people in the community. Regretfully, since then, and Councillor Watson is quite right, we actually haven't moved very far. Now, I find it very interesting when I hear earlier conversations about a climate emergency and the like, and if you look at the evidence, we're dealing with a substance that's a poison that kills life, it kills bees, it kills insects, it kills soil life, it degrades and adds to the sediment in the Hauraki Gulf. That's the substance that we're talking about, and it also kills people. And if you read the health reports on glyphosate, and it would be useful for you to familiarise yourself with them, you'll realise how it affects males and females and developing organisms.
Councillor Walker, we're
and
not.
like.
We're not. Those
I'm
aren't
speaking to re-establishing the
Sorry,
Weed Management
Councillor
Political
Walker.
Advisory Committee.
Councillor Walker, we're debating who is going on to the advisory group. We're not debating the content of...
No, that's not correct, sir. The wording is around re-establishing the Weed Management Political Advisory Group, and part of that also involves the constituency of it. I'll repeat, I see the words there, approve re-establishing the Weed Management Political Advisory Group, and I'm speaking to that.
Thank you.
And the membership. So may I speak, sir?
Yes, but if you keep
Thank
it
you.
to the
So-
re-establishment and...
So
appointing.
I'm just bringing some things to your attention, and particularly if I look at item 23, which discusses public input, transparency, obviously guidance for staff, and then I look at 25, it refers to public and elected members, public, to discuss council's weed management collaboratively. And I think one of my concerns going forward is I believe that the collaboration on council's part and on the part of this group has been poor, to say the least, in minimising the use of this substance. I refer you to the climate action emergency and the fact that here we've got an opportunity to do something that goes with that and actually does not destroy nature but rather enhances it. So I think that if we are to put this group together, it needs to be much more forthright and active and target orientated in its approach, not just business as usual. And that's my concern. I'm happy to go on it. And in my view, as many councillors as possible should be on it if they're interested. And I don't see what the petty reasons are why we are discriminating in that respect. I do regard that as incredibly petty.
Thank you. Councillor Philippine.
Thank you, Chair. Jenny, just want to acknowledge the work over the last 3 years to you and your team. And look, definitely support the recommendations here in regards to the establishment of the political advisory group. I think one thing that we all need to be aware of is the fact that we get our guidance, at least from an Tamaki Makaurau perspective, from the Environmental Protection Authority and what they've got. So it'll be interesting, and for those through you, Chair, is just to have a look at the EPA website. I mean, I know there's others, but look, for me, totally support the re-establishment of the political advisory group and look forward to options that we've always put in front of that group over the last term that I was involved with. So look, definitely support the recommendations, Chair.
Kia ora, thank you, Alf. And we will move to a vote. All those in favour? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you to the staff.